You ever boot up an old game that you used to play back in the day and you just get immaculate nostalgia? Well, today I'm going to talk about some games that give me a lot of nostalgia from, back in the day when I used to play those games. Most of these games I used to play were on the PS3. Back in the day, that was the console for my early years. Now, the first game I'm going to go over that gives nostalgia is Ratchet and Clank All for One. I remember playing that game with my brother when I was around 6 years old. Ratchet and Clank All for One had a co-op story, so me and my brother would always play it. I remember dying a lot and tagging on to my brother, and honestly, he always carried me throughout the game. That first boss, the Zagroot, brings back so many memories. I remember not knowing how to beat him for years, well, maybe not years, but like a really long time when we were super young, until we finally figured it out. The game was so cool. You could choose from 4 characters. Ratchet, Clank, Dr. Nefarious, and Quark, the green guy. I remember me and my brother liked to choose the robots, so we would choose either Dr. Nefarious or Clank, or maybe sometimes Ratchet. Low-key, we never chose Quark. But the game was so peak. I remember you could get a bunch of unique guns, and it was super fun. The environments were super cool. Honestly, just such a solid game from when we were younger. We kind of sucked at it, so we didn't get very far. I think we only got to around halfway through the game and never even ended up being able to beat it. Maybe someday I'll dust off the old PS3 and we'll run it back. Now, the second game, or games I guess, that I'll go over that brings back immaculate nostalgia are the Batman Arkham games. Now, when I was little, like really young, like early as 2 years old or even just born, I remember my dad used to play Arkham Asylum on the PS3. So even from birth, I remember I would watch him play these games on the TV. Now, when I got a little older, like maybe 6 years old, I started to play them myself. Specifically these 3, Origins, Asylum, and City. I remember I stayed away from Night because I didn't mess with the Batmobile when I was younger. But these games were just the best. The best combat, coolest stealth, awesome gadgets, and Batman all around, just my favorite character of all time. So really these games just, shaped my childhood and growing up, and just shaped my love for Batman. Now, I remember when we would play these single player games, me and my brother would switch who was playing sometimes. So we would go and we'd complete a story game together, switching who's playing and who's watching. And honestly, it took us a really long time to complete these games. I remember it took like months to just finish one game because, we would get stuck a lot, and when we were young, we weren't very good at finding out where to go a lot of the time. Now, I remember Origins was the cool, younger, snowy, Christmas kind of Batman game. City was the most epic, most fun, and honestly my favorite back then, and still is to this day. And Asylum was kind of that, third creepy one we didn't pick up till we were, a year later. But all 3 of these games bring back so much nostalgia of when I was super young, and honestly are all just such great games. To this day, the Arkham series is probably my favorite game series, but when I play them, I still look back to those memories and get a bunch of nostalgia, even though I've played them so many times. Now, unlike the last game, how it was the whole game series mostly that gave the nostalgia, for this, specifically this one game gives back a lot of nostalgia. And that game is Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. Just the box art brings back so much nostalgia, front and back. Now, the crazy thing is, I didn't even play this game personally till I was in about 6th grade. But this is another game I would watch my dad play when I was super young, and I just remember watching so much of the game and loving the characters, the environment, and just the overall vibe to the game. And I remember I would watch him play this when I was somewhere like 4 or 5, 6 years old. So I was really, really young when I would watch my dad play Uncharted 3. Now, the reason why this is the only one that, is nostalgic for me is because I only think my dad played Uncharted 2 before 3, and I think I was too young to really remember that, or I just didn't really watch it that much. And I remember when I checked it out when I was in 6th grade, I remember things like the death sound, the environments that I remembered from the past, and all those things just brought back so much nostalgia from when I used to be super young and watch my dad play, and they still do to this day. Things like the amazing music, Drake's jokes, the characters like Victor Sullivan brought back so much nostalgia from when I was around 4 years old. And another memory I have about this game that's really nostalgic is that I remember my dad lost the game, so he ended up buying 2 copies of it. Another copy somewhere around here, but just too lazy to get it, to be honest. But, trust me on it. And maybe it's the nostalgia bias, but Uncharted 3 is still my favorite game in the Uncharted series, and I honestly love this game to death, still play it a bunch to this day, and it's honestly also one of my favorite games ever. They don't make games like PS3 anymore. PS3 was just my childhood overall, and I love that console to death. Okay, the final game I'm going to talk about is low-key kind of niche, but honestly, this one might bring back the most memories and be the most nostalgic for me. And that game is Epic Mickey. Now, this was a game on the Wii, and I remember also a game that my dad played when I was super young. In the game, there was this monster called the Blot, and I remember I was so scared of him. I would go and hide behind the chair, and whenever it came on, I would just be super, super scared. And honestly, just the vibe, the music, the environment of the game, it's so peak and brings back so much nostalgia. I love this game to death to this day. Now, after my dad played it, a little bit after when I was still very young, I also played it with my brother. And, I remember loving it so much that it would be a game I would return to yearly. Just the story and just all the bosses I loved so much, and I would just, play the heck out of this game. And no game has captured the environment of Wasteland quite as well as this has to me ever since. This was a Wii game, so you would aim the remote like your brush and you would have paint or thinner. Paint would make characters good, and thinner would, basically kill the characters. So you could either choose to make enemies your sidekicks or just slime them out. And the same thing worked with the bosses. You could either redeem them or defeat them. Now, I personally loved the gameplay, but that wasn't even the best thing about the game. Honestly, the best thing was just how beautifully the world was made, how it was built up, and just all the characters and the story, the bosses, and the music, just how it had this creepy but also magical vibe. All of these games are so nostalgic to me. Watching my dad play a lot of them, then picking them up myself when I was super young, and then coming back to them today, honestly just gives so much nostalgia of my childhood. And I still love all these games to death to this day. Now, those are the games that bring the most nostalgia, but there are definitely many other games that give me a lot of nostalgia too. If you guys want to see a part 2, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, I would love to hear all of your games that give you a lot of nostalgia. So please, also comment down below. Hope y'all have an amazing day. God bless everyone.